Do you think the Buffalo Sabres trading Casey Mittlestadt to the Colorado Avalanche for defenseman Bowen Byram was a good trade? Find out my thoughts coming up. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another video of Sports Talk Buffalo. So do you think the Buffalo Sabres trading center Casey Mittlestadt to the Colorado Avalanche in exchange for defenseman Bowen Byram was a good trade? And my initial reaction was, nah, not terrible, not a terrible trade, as I remembered Byram's name from a couple of years ago from the Colorado Avalanche's Stanley Cup run. I was like, yeah, that's not too bad, okay? But the more I thought about it, the more it just pissed me off. It just pissed me off all day long, and I finally get to talk about it here in this video. So why did I not like this trade? There's many reasons why I didn't like this trade. If you follow my Twitter at SportsTalkBuff1 or my X at SportsTalkBuff1, you'll see me all over the place responding to everybody about why I didn't like this trade. But here is why I personally did not like this trade. The first reason why is you just traded away this season's leading point getter for your team in a year in which your team is struggling mightily to score. You just traded away a guy who is on pace for over 60 points on a team that the next closest forward to him is 7 points away. 7 points away is the next closest forward to Casey Mittlestadt on this team. And that is Jeff Skinner and Alex Tuch. The closest center to him on this team was Dylan Cousins, and he was 9 points behind him. 9 points behind him. That's not great for one of your supposed top two centers. It's not great. It's not a great look to then go ahead and trade your number 3 center, who has shown you that he's a top 2 center in the NHL over the course of the last 2 seasons, for bringing up my next point, for another puck-moving offensive defenseman, of which you already got fucking 4 of. You already have 4 puck-moving offensive defensemen, two-way defensemen. You already got 4 of them. 4 of them. You got Dahlin, you got Power, you got Yoki Harju, and you got rookie Ryan Johnson. You got 4 puck-moving, fast-skating defensemen. You know what you don't have on the back end? A defensive defenseman who can play any resemblance of a physical game. Anybody who can tie up in front of the net. None of that. You have none of that. So where does he slot in? Considering he is now their fifth left-handed defenseman. Where does he slot in? Does he play with Rasmus Dahlin on the first line? So do you jump him up from the 18 minutes a game he was playing in Colorado to the 30 minutes a game that Rasmus Dahlin is currently playing? Is that what you do? A guy who had struggled over his last 2 seasons, you immediately put him on your first pair? That sounds like a recipe for disaster. The next big thing is that trading away Casey Mittlestadt created a hole on your team. A hole you couldn't afford. The Sabres had holes on their team. The one place they didn't have a hole, seemingly, was the center position. And you just created one by trading away your center. You just got rid of your depth by trading away one of your top 3 centers. And this season, he wasn't your 3rd center. He was your 1 center. He was your best center all season long. Putting even more pressure on Dylan Cousins, who has been a ghost all season. Putting more pressure on Tage Thompson, who has also been a ghost all season long. And in their first game without Casey Mittlestadt, your top three centers combined for a -2 with 3 shots on goal and no points. That's what they combined for in their first game without Casey Mittlestadt. The only goal scorer in that game was Victor Olofsson, who had been sitting for 10 games previous. Am I saying that Mittelstadt would have tore that game up? Probably not. But it's never going to help your team when you get rid of the guy who's been playing the best all season long out of your forwards. It's going to drastically hurt your team in the short term and maybe even in the long term. Because how do you replace that production? That is another thing that I wanted to talk about. How do you replace Casey Mittelstadt production? You have to hope and pray that Peyton Krebs can replace that production. Even if Casey is not your 1C or even your 2C, he is likely going to be a 50 to 60 point NHL player for the duration of at least his prime in the NHL. Something he was just now entering. He was just now entering his prime at 25 years old. And the Buffalo Sabres said, you know what? I know we're the youngest team in the league, but I want to get even younger. Because that has been working out oh so very well for this fucking franchise right now. That's one of the excuses this year. Well, they're a young team. Shut up. I'm done. Like most Sabres fans, we're fucking done with excuses. Make the team better now. Right now. And I don't think you do that by creating another hole in your forwards. How does that make your team better? How does that bringing in another defenseman, of which you already have 4 of the same kind of defensemen, make your team better? A guy that, from what I have been looking at on Twitter, whatever, X, has been struggling the last 2 years. How does that make your team better? I'm not even a numbers nerd, and all of the analytics are saying that Byram has not been very good. Not only not been very good, very bad. How does that make you better? Which brings me to my next point. The Sabres traded production for potential. How many fucking times are we going to be the reclamation project creators or whatever for the NHL? How many times? How often can we go, well, he's got a ton of potential? Fuck that, man. Seriously. Is anyone else done? Is anyone else done with potential? I don't care about potential anymore. I want to see production, and I want to see it now. 13 years of this shit is enough. We've been rebuilding for 13 years. When do you make a trade to get us better? Now. The Jordan Greenway trade didn't make us better now. Jordan Greenway is a third line at his peak, a third line player. And you brought him in for physicality. Great. He's 5th on the team in hits. Doesn't fight anybody. He kills penalties okay, but that's about it. What else does he do? You brought in Stillman, who's now in the AHL, because you don't want him in your lineup. You brought in Clifton for 3 years, who has had an incredibly up and down season. When do you make a trade to make the Sabres better now? This might have been the one time that you could leverage a player into bringing in somebody that could help your forward group out right now. A forward group that is struggling mightily, by the way, to score at all this season. And I'm going to venture to say it will probably bleed over into next season. They say, oh, well, the Sabres are pretty good at 5-on-5. A lot of that was Casey fucking Mittlestadt, people. Casey Mittlestadt scored a lot on 5-on-5. He was one of your best 5-on-5 players. And you got rid of him. And I think the reason why I'm so mad is there was no rush to get rid of him. He was not a UFA. He was still an RFA. You had his rights. Even if it goes to arbitration and you sign him for another year or two, it still gives you time. It still gives you options, people. Options. It blows my mind that we just continue to bank on production coming from rookies coming into the league. And that's another thing. People go say things like, oh, well, we have all these guys down in Rochester and all these young prospects. Who cares? Who cares? I'm tired of I'm tired of banking on rookies to come in and be productive right away. On potential. And then we wait for a season, 2 seasons, 3 seasons until they finally get their fucking feet under them. And at that point, we're like, well, we got to make a trade now. And we fucking trade one of them away. That's what we're going to end up doing. All this time, we waited for Casey Mittlestadt to be the player that we drafted him to be. And the second he was the player we drafted him to be, we fucking traded him away. I realize, people, that something needed to change. I realize that. Okay? I get it. But why are we trading away guys that are just now hitting their prime, just now hitting their stride in the NHL? I would be a fan of getting rid of Jordan Greenway. I would be a fan of trading away Jeff Skinner. I would listen if you wanted to talk about trading away Alex Tuch. It would have to be a good deal, but I would listen. And I wouldn't be this upset if I thought we got back something that could help the team immediately in the forward group for Casey Mittlestadt. Something the Sabres don't have, and I talked about, is a power forward. Someone that can do it all. The Sabres have nothing like that. That's why I get angry when the Sabres then trade for a guy that we already have multiple of. And I hope Byram comes in, and I hope he's tremendous, incredible. I hope he scores a ton of points, and he's just a lockdown defensively. I hope he's more physical than I could have ever dreamed. And then I would shut my fucking mouth and go away. But I don't see that happening. He might be a good defenseman. Hopefully. That's what we're banking on, right? He's got high upside. When are we done with upside? And when do we have a team that can produce? When do we stop building for the future and play for the now? Those are my thoughts on the Casey Mittlestadt trade. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. I really hope this trade works out. I really, really do. And I hope it's a win-win for both teams. But right now, it is a big loss for the Buffalo Sabres. That's going to do it for this week's episode, guys. Once again, let me know what you think in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you guys never miss a video. Thanks for watching. Have a fantastic week.